Thank you to everyone who came along to our aged care forum today. I should just say, if you're going to watch the next hour or so of this video, that it may not be the best place to go for information on aged care, and in fact we'll make sure that in the comments of this video will be the phone number for my aged care. Start there. Essentially, if the system is working, then everything should work out after that phone call. But the real purpose of today's forum was just to give people, I guess, that assurance that there is somewhere you can go. You can either come to us for help or for further information, or you can go to OPAN, who is the Older Persons Advocacy Network. Their contact details will be in the comments below. The second thing is that the system is changing, and the government is open to changes. And in fact, on the day before that we held the forum, we made changes to the new supported home scheme to make sure that things like showers are now going to be able to be accessed for free. And so the government is open to more changes, and part of the point about the forum was to get feedback so that we can feed back to the government what really needs to be done. Of course, it's not just that forum. You can let us know anytime. Let me know anytime that you've got suggestions, or that if the system just isn't working for you. Very briefly, the aged care system, one of the best questions that I got today was looking at really that history of where we have ended up with our aged care system today. Essentially, you have something called the Commonwealth Home Support Program, so that if you've contacted My Aged Care for the first time, you're very likely going to be approved for some what would be very basic services like perhaps gardening or cleaning. That's under what was the system that used to exist, called the Commonwealth Home Support Program, and which still exists today as effectively that entry level. At that point, the funding doesn't attach to you as the client, but it goes to a service, and I won't name any particular service here, but it goes to a service which is funded to provide that at a community level. The next stage of My Aged Care is now called the Supported Home Program. It used to be the home care packages, but now it's called a Supported Home. And that's where you as an individual, after an assessment, are actually funded personally to go and find a provider to provide some of those basic services, perhaps like gardening or cleaning, but some of those more complex services ranging from showering, wound care, to medication management and clinical care at home. That's called the Supported Home Program, and that one is the new system. Essentially, it can get complex when it comes for applying for things like assistive technology or additional services, and so fundamentally, the point of today was to really let people know, if you're having any difficulties or if you have any questions, come to us or come to OPAN. Those details are in the comments below. And if you do stick it out for the hour, thanks for coming along, and look forward to seeing you soon. Good. Okay. System works. Thank you, Leanne. For those online who missed this, I think just to get straight to the point, they wouldn't have happened without Heather and without Alan. And I'd very much like Heather to tell us what you'd like to say.
Hello, everyone. I'm very unfamiliar with all of this, so bear with me. I came to see Rowan, I think it was in November, when all the changes happened, and we found ourselves lacking in services because of the increase in prices. So I came to Rowan to let him know that things just weren't, in my opinion, working. Since then, I've learned a lot more about supported home and being very frightened about it all. So far, I don't feel very supported by a supported home. Number one, you can't carry that $1,000, but that $1,000 is all you can carry over there. I've had an operation. The only way I could get services for my husband, extra services, was to forego services so that the money would be there. That's just one thing that's affected us, lack of services. Providers are overrun with paperwork and reports and all the rest of it now. We really need to get this right, because we're getting a larger population now with the older people, and there's no infrastructure for us. There's no aged care homes that can cope. Respite care is basically, emergency respite care is basically non-existent. So we really, really do need to work with the government to try and get this right for all of us. And please speak up. And that's basically how we've been affected. And like I said, I've learned a lot about it. Learned a lot about supported home. And it's scary to me, very scary. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, underselling yourself, I mean, the commitment that you make to get the help of the services that Aaron needs is really an inspiration. And the fact that you've been, very motivated, that it's not just about your situation, but the situation of others. It really is, inspiring. And words can't express how much admiration I have.
So many people that don't understand what's happening
at a time where they need their help the most. And so to that end, so I should introduce myself. My name is Rowan Holzberger. I'm the still relatively new federal member for Ford. And so today, because of really the impetus that Heather provided, I thought that we'd have a forum to explain some of the changes that are coming in, also to deal with some of the challenges that exist from the existing and previous system. And so we've got OPAN today, which stands for the Older Persons Advocacy Network, which really is probably, I think, the key advocacy support service in Queensland, southeast Queensland. And so we have Maha and Mark. Mark, I think, does more general advocacy in terms of the system of my aged care. Maha, I think, focuses on that sort of financial support, which is something that is available and is even more relevant and necessary under the supported home program. My job is not to defend the system at all. My job is to take feedback and I think is to really focus on the fact that this is a new system. That 5 years ago there was probably 150,000 people in that home care package program. This year it's 300.
Hi guys, lost audio again.
That we have, but as Heather says, the focus is that we need to get it right. As it scales up, we need to deal with the problems now while they are still relatively manageable compared to trying to deal with them when there's 1 million people on the system. So I want to hear those stories today from you, and also just like Heather, if we all sort of work together on this, we can get positive outcomes no matter really, I think, what the situation is. The importance of feedback though is that it is absolutely not just lip service, and in fact I think very luckily for me today is that I'm able to I guess just point people to an announcement that the aged care minister made last night, which is that we are already making our first lot of changes in the support at home program. And for some of you this won't mean anything, but for some of you this will. So whereas showering, wound dressing and incontinence care was included in that sort of middle category of independence, which would have attracted a co-payment, that's now been moved into clinical, where there is no co-payment. So that is, I think, it's going to cost $1 billion over the forward estimates. It's not cheap, but it's necessary, and I think it's an indication that this government is focused on getting this right. So the way that I propose that we do today is that we'll hear from Maha and Mark in terms of the financial, accessing that financial support, and in terms of accessing the system, and then we'll open to questions. And I think we're aiming to wrap up sometime around 11:30, 12 o'clock. And I'll be hanging around too to take further questions. So without further ado, Mark and Maha. Okay, thank you.
Can I get the... Yep. Yeah. I just want to have the PowerPoint in front of me as well as behind me, so I'm not turning around to try and work out what I'm about to say. A little bit of a dance. All right. Just, yep, can we... You can just skip and go. Yep. Sorry, all right. Oh, wait, we were already introduced. Sorry. Just go to the couple of screen. Just go from slide 3, if that's all right. If we can go slide 3 and then just keep on going from there. All right. So, look, I can't really see that. I'll have to turn around quickly. All right, so we'll sort of go through what we do as ADA Australia. So there's OPAN, which is the Older Persons Advocacy Network, which is the national body. So if you ring up OPAN in Queensland, you get us. So we're ADA Australia. So we're there to try and help and advocate around aged care services. So what we'll sort of talk through is, I guess, like I said, around that sort of stuff. And then Maha can take over a bit on finances and sort of financial areas of the system. And then I'll jump in with other bits. We'll sort of go backwards and forwards. Am I standing here? Okay. We've got heaps of stuff actually on the table just there that we can send out, but it's if you ring, so you're saying people that are out of the state or just not you're just somebody who's not right here. So the OPAN number is 1800 700 600. So it's quite a good number to get to. That's probably the easiest one, and then you can get through to it. But if you're ringing that number out of the state, you'd get like, say if you're ringing New South Wales, you'd get the New South Wales version of us. Okay. So, okay. So look, we're not-for-profit, we're community-based, we're independent, so we're not part of the government or any service provider. We're our own entity. We're free. We are a free service, so that's always a good thing. Usually, that they get you over the way. Confidential to a point. So I guess, we're confidential until you actually want us to say you have an issue with a service provider. It's hard for us to say, look, somebody's not turning up on time. We can't just say that. We'd say it's, if somebody's not turning up to visit Mr. Smith, to try and get that service going. And we are consumer directed. So we're there for the person who's getting that service. So that's what we're there. That's all right. So we're there to, so say you're the partner of somebody who's getting the service, we'd want to talk to the person to work out that what they want is us. So we're there to try and help that person out, if that makes sense. So we're not there for the carer, we're there for the person who's receiving services. All right, that's sort of what I've already talked through that. So we stand alongside an individual so their voice is heard. That's what advocacy is all about. So we're there to, we say we work with, not for. So we're there to help you to say, talk to that service provider or help yourself to find a service if they're around. So that can be a bit of a stretch. All right, so I'm jumping a little bit ahead of my slides here, so sorry about that. So like I've already said, so we're there to access issues. So it could be trying to help find a service if they're there. So there's some services that are quite hard to find, like things called Commonwealth Home Support Programs, CHSP. They're like hen's teeth. So if it's looking for things called domestic assistance and that sort of stuff, and that's the one where there's a co-contribution, they're a lot harder to find at the moment. So it could also be provider issues. So like I said, if somebody's not turning up on time, if they're not doing the work that they should do, we can help the person then to talk to that service provider. Thank you, I can see it now. Help the person to talk to that service provider about issues that they may be having with that service. Like I said, not turning up on time, not doing the job, being rude, all those sort of things. And if don't feel comfortable to talk to them yourself, we can help you do that. And obviously financial advocacy, which is MAHA. All right, so this is where we go. So it's current issue. So it's not about, so we're there to resolve an issue. We're not there to help with a complaint as such. It's sort of old and been worked through. It's around a current issue, support to escalate concerns, which I've sort of already talked about, express their view and wishes. So it's to try and talk through, like I said, what's going on, information and options. So it could be, sort of saying, I guess, what is sport at home and how to get onto those sort of things. Build confidence on there. The best advocate is there to help you to do it once, and now you've got confidence to do it yourself and you don't need us to do it again. And we can work with alternate decision makers if that's enduring power of attorney and have sort of, I've seen all the bits of paper and all that sort of stuff around that. All right, so we do have a bit of ADA law. We can go through these quickish, but yeah. So ADA law, we help people around QCAT issues, around guardianship administration issues. So it could be that they have, somebody has an enduring power of attorney, doesn't feel like they're doing the right thing. We can then help to possibly move away from that, or under public trustee and public guardian. And there's elder abuse advocacy, where we help somebody who's actually in an aged care facility around issues they may be having with their family. All right, we've got a self-advocacy toolkit, so we can send that out about how to do advocacy yourself if needed. We've got some of that sort of stuff on the table there. I guess I'm sort of setting you guys up for I think the questions is where you're going to really want to talk to us. So we'll move through this quickish so you have enough room for questions. So look, yeah, let's just push it on.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us today. So as what was mentioned before, we are ADA Australia, where we deliver services all throughout Queensland, so not just the southeast side. And OPEN is like the mother organisation who gets the funding and distributes it to each nation. My role actually came from the Royal Commission, where they identified that with aged care services, it's not just quality and service, but there's also the fees involved. And they needed someone that understood that. My background is actually over 20 years in aged care, delivering service, but I'm an accountant by background. So it was an actual great niche for me to get into. And I do love it, and it is quite challenging, but it is also nice to have someone walk alongside you, like what Mark mentioned, and that's our role. It's not to take over, but to actually support you understand, because there is ageism there, where I've supported clients on a call to Services Australia and they won't speak to the client. They won't speak to that person. Oh, where's your nominee? Get them to call. So that's really frustrating. Don't strip someone's rights away when they have the capacity to actually speak and make decisions on their own. So how can a financial advocate help you? So we give guidance on financial aged care forms. We don't prepare forms. I just want to mention that. We're not the ones that actually, we're not allowed. But we can sit there and go through the forms and just make sense of the form, including the costs of care, income and asset assessments for residential aged care and hardship applications. We discuss any concerns regarding aged care fees, charges, and provide you with options. So we'll sit there and we'll brainstorm. We can't give advice, but we can sit down and go, hey, look, if you stay on the Commonwealth Home Support Program, it's going to cost you this much. Or if you do pick up that support at home, it's going to cost you that. So we're empowering you to make that decision, but giving you the tools and the information that you need in order to make that decision. We support you at meetings with management to discuss your concerns about any fees and charges, and guidance and referrals for further financial services and supports. We also assist with discussing with the care recipient about their choices of taking up support at home, support the care recipient to update their financial information with Services Australia. So I like to work as a teleconference because you could be on the call, as you know, up to 2 hours. I will call you, we'll call through Services Australia. You have to identify yourself, but it's so nice to have someone there to record everything. So you're not there taking notes, but also trying to remember what to ask. So we're there to support you to collect all the information and then at the end have a debrief. Right, this is what we've got to. And we know what questions to ask. And unfortunately, having someone there, they do listen and they'll go that one step further. Communicate outcomes to the service providers on updates made by Services Australia and support the care recipient to review statements, overspends, budgets, information and any other fee queries. Okay, so we have spoken, we all are aware that there is a new aged care system as of the 1st of November last year, but we're still dealing with issues from the home care packages. But the new system has come into place where we're aware now, if you're being grandfathered from the old system, you will, this no worse off principle theory only really sticks to the co-contributions or the income tested fee. So if you are on an income tested fee of say $30 per day, that per percentage wise on the co-contribution has really dropped. So you really aren't worse off, you're actually better off because you're paying the co-contribution for the services you use. However, unfortunately, all due respect, the government didn't think about, oh, prices are going to go up. And you were mentioning, Heather, service delivery. So say you were getting 10 hours a week, that's jumped down to 6 hours, 5 hours, because it's the service providers, we don't work against the service providers. We work for the client, but to get a great outcome for the clients. And for them also, I've worked in service provider land, it's really stressful. And so they're in a position to provide the service there, but they're also under a lot of stress. And Heather, you mentioned everything, so that was amazing. Thank you very much for bringing that all up. So it's from all approaches, but we're here to work with the client, but it's good to understand what's happening on the other side. So we're not going against anyone. We just want to make this system a lot easier. I have academics calling me going, I'm so educated on this and that, I just don't understand this system. And they're so upset and disappointed within themselves. And I'm like, no, that's what we're here for. That's what we're funded. So please, and we're a free service, let's do this together because it's really stressful, especially when it comes to finance. No one wants to be in debt. But then with the system, if it hasn't been explained to you, some people do. That's not me, is it? No, that's all right. So with the type of services that you receive, it's been broken down into 3. It's the clinical support, which does not have a co-contribution. So basically, It's free out of pocket. It just comes out of your support at home funding. And that great news for the incontinence and the wound and the personal care. So just a bit of background, what we do. So Mark's a team leader of the Aged Advocates. I'm a financial specialist with the financial part. We actually collect cases and we create a big open report. So all the states, we provide to that report and they feed that back up to department. I've also had the position where I've been with departments where we tell them, look, these are the issues. This isn't right. This isn't fair. This isn't how it should be. And they've listened. So honestly, that news has been a breakthrough for advocacy where that work and effort, they've listened and they're making the change, even though it's coming in October, but they've listened and it will come through. So that's a really great win for all the efforts that's been happening in the background. Then you've got the independence, which is the one-on-one shopping support, and then the everyday living, which is your cleaning and your lawn mowing. We'll move to the next slide, which we'll see the rates up here. So if you're grandfathered, so you've been on a home care package prior to the 20-something of September 2024, they don't apply to you. These are for people who were assessed after that September 2024. So any clinical, so we've got categories. If you're a full pensioner, Services Australia will have all your information. So they'll make an assessment on what your co-contribution is, and that's basically 17.5%. So if you're getting cleaning and it's $100 an hour, you're paying $17.50 of that hour. But they still haven't capped the pricing. That's going to happen in 2027. That price can range between $65 to $140. Sorry? An hour. So you'll be paying up to $35 to $40 if it's $100 an hour, which you weren't paying before. You've got then, you've got, where are we? 5%. This isn't probably the best, but yeah, the 5%. So the full pensioner for social support, 5%. Clinical for full pensioner, part pensioner, or self-funded Commonwealth support home care holder, 0. Self-funded. So we've got self-funded retirees. So all the clinical, 0. But for the cleaning, pensioners pay 17.5. Your part pensioners, they're assessed on their income, 17.5 to 80%, which is a lot. And then if you're a self-funded retiree, you'll be paying 80% of that $100, which in hindsight, as a financial advocate, it's my duty just to say, it is your choice. If you need someone to come and clean your house, go source it privately. And we brought it up to the department and they're like, that's consumer choice. So that's their choice if they want to do it privately or do it under the support at home. So you don't think that because you've got that, you must use cleaning from your support at home, especially if you're self-funded retiree. It's costing you a lot. It's not feasible. And then you've got the 50%, but it really all, I know it's a lot of numbers and percentages, but that's where Services Australia comes in. And that's, so it's really good now. Centrelink. So Centrelink and Services Australia are two, even though they're under the same department, they're two different departments doing two different things. Can I please move to the next slide? So Centrelink now, before they didn't, Centrelink now feeds that information to Services Australia. If you're not a pensioner or a part pensioner, you need to be completing the forms for support at home, SA 456, in order for Services Australia or Centrelink to calculate your co-contribution. There's a myth that Centrelink knows what you have and can go into your bank accounts. That's not true. You have to complete one of these forms. And if you don't complete one of those forms, you'll be a means not disclosed. So you'll be charged at the highest percentage rate until you do complete it, and it can be backdated. So if you are a self-funded retiree, or if you haven't updated your information, please do so because you'll be saving money. So that I just wanted to put this form up just to be familiar what these forms look like. Can I please move to the next slide? I'm not going to go through this, but what I do want to bring to your attention is that if we see here, so we're advocates, we're a free service, we're there to provide information and try and support you as much as we can. However, there are, where are we? Aged care specialist officers. Is it here somewhere? Oh, can we please go back? I think it's on the previous page. There we go. So other help available. It's really good to know that there is an aged care specialist officer who provide in-depth information about your aged care options. So they're the ones also, you do need to call that aged care hotline number and make an appointment with them, or if it's easier for you to go into a Centrelink office, because they're based in Centrelink offices. There's not many of them in Queensland, but the closest one is in Woodridge. So there's an AXO there. They can go into your My Aged Care, they can bring up your information. You're able to update your information with them. He's or her are able to go through the forms. There are social workers in Centrelink that you can ask for support if you need support with the form. But yeah, so an aged care specialist officer is really good because they've got the information there. Yeah, so it's the aged care line. It's the 1800 227 475 number, and that will be on your services. 1800 227 475. While I'm talking about that number, if you haven't updated your income and assets for some time, and you had, say, 50,000 in your bank account, you've gone on a holiday, you've had some maintenance in the house, that 50,000 has gone down to 20,000, it is in your best interest to call that number and update your information, because then your co-contribution will reduce based on that current information. But it is your responsibility to do so. And if you haven't done it for 3 years, say, you can show statements and they can backdate that assessment. So that's one good thing. They'll always backdate with proof. And next one. And I just wanted to show the form for the residential care. So you may be looking at either getting support at home or going into permanent care. They're different forms. This is the 457, and an aged care specialist officer also can support in going through your income and assets to see what it's going to cost you. And next one. 1800 227 475. And if you've got an advocate, like I mentioned, 227 475. I'm going to tattoo it one day because I use it every day. For aged care, that's the aged care line. So not Centrelink. So if you have any Centrelink, I will just note, we're not My Aged Care. My Aged Care is, I like to call them like a call centre, an information centre that takes in the assessments and that's your initial call when you want to get into aged care services. So they're the ones you call. I don't know that number off by heart, do you? Okay, because I don't call them. We actually have a portal that we can go in to look at your services with your permission. But if you don't have any aged care services, My Aged Care is the first number you contact to get registered and assessed, where you can be assessed, like Mark mentioned, Commonwealth Home Support Program or any of the levels at Support at Home. If you're really confused, you call us and we'll help you navigate that system, or one of the aged advocates will on the phone, or if you need a visit, they can come and visit you and just break that down on a face-to-face.
So we've probably gone slightly into stuff without going through the assessment. So we might double back a little bit and go through that. So the My Aged Care number is 1800 200 422. So that's where you go when you first are trying to look for services. So that's where everything's pointed through. So when I said CHSP or Commonwealth Home Support Program, did anybody know what I was talking about, or does that make sense to anybody? Yeah, a few? No, somebody's going like that as well with it. So yeah, so that's the first that's the lowest end of services. So that's your domestic assistance, bit of lawn mowing. It's supposed to be only a couple of hours a week is the best you get out of that. And it's also a co-contribution. So it might be 20, no, sorry, that's somebody saying, $20, $30 per service. And then it goes into your support at home, which is you're assessed again at a higher, it's a clinical assessment. And that's when they're looking at, like I said, there's the 8 levels of support at home, with 1 being not a lot, and then level 8 being sort of 50 odd thousand a year. So it's sort of, there's something in between. And then that is to support you to stay at home for as long as possible, and then cover all your services. So that's where, you'd be getting all the stuff that we're talking about here, the clinical, the and all that sort of stuff to make sure that you're being looked after and staying at home. Does that sort of clear it up at all? Because I've sort of went over that fairly quickly. No? Yeah? Roughly, I'm pulling a number out of my head there, sorry.
We're getting to that now.
Okay, so with this, because they're 2 different services, if it's Commonwealth Home Support Program, say it's at $30, you'd be then talking to the actual person who's doing the service. So it's talking to, the care provider. I won't pick any name in there, but the care provider that is doing that service, you're doing a sort of financial hardship with themselves. If it's support at home and you can't afford it, it is then going back into the next slide, because I've sort of jumped in there because I thought I probably didn't say enough at the beginning, I'm sorry. So we've sort of jumped into where things are there. So.
Thank you, Mark.
Sorry, we're obviously going to have questions at the end, so please, hold on to some of these, and we can, I'll answer them as much as I can. Or
call the open number. And you can call the open number to become a client and speak to an advocate on a one-on-one. I've just thrown this one here, the aged care fee estimator. This one is on the My Aged Care website, and it's a bit technical, but if you can sort of navigate your way around, you can work out what your co-contribution is and how much of the funding that Mark was talking about that you could get realistically in a month, in your monthly budget. You just need your total income, your annual income, that's all right, the total value of your financial and non-financial assets, and the market value of your home. That's a bit more technical, and that's probably something you would do with myself, a financial advocate. Okay, financial hardship. I think that's what we're here for, as you mentioned. So now there's always been financial hardship. I've been in the role just under 4 years. So we've always supported the self-funded retirees where they were asked to pay an income-tested fee of, say, $18 to $36 a day, where they would do financial hardship. Now pensioners are asked to pay 17.5% for everyday living, 5% for independent. So care recipients who are facing financial hardship when paying their aged care fees can apply to Services Australia for that financial hardship assistance. The financial hardship application may exempt the care recipient from paying all or part of the co-contribution. The financial hardship exemption is not an ongoing arrangement. It is set for a certain period of 12 to 18 months, and then you have to reapply, and the hardship supplement will be paid to the provider. I just wanted people to see the form, SA 462, so you do have to complete the form. I will note, as of this year, that form went from 30 pages to approximately 16 pages. It still seems overwhelming. I've gone through with clients, we've looked at the form. It's not that bad. You don't need to show proof for your essential expenses. Please do not provide your pet's food, because that's not an essential expense. But you just basically do an approximation of what it would cost you. You don't have to show proof, but you do need to show statements for the time that you are applying for the financial hardship. So how do you know if you're eligible? You need to have, these amounts, they change quarterly, but we'll just stick to these. They have jumped just a tad, but I like to say if you've got assets under 45,000, so if you have super of 80,000 and above, unfortunately, you can't go for financial hardship. The government sees that you have a means to pay for your co-contribution. So to apply for financial hardship, your assets need to be under, I think it's 46 now, but let's just say 45,000 for argument. And then, so if you've got your assets under, and after the pension, the 15%, you're left with 15%. What that means, say you receive a pension of 1,100 in a fortnight, you paid your rent or your mortgage, your electricity, your phone, your food, all those amounts. If you're left with under $161, that allows you to apply for financial hardship. There is on a website, there's a calculator, there's budgets that before you even go through that, it's good for you just to sit down and go, rightio, my income's this much, these are all my essential expenses, what am I left with? Because you don't want to go through all that form writing, but you're above that threshold, even if you're under the 45,000 worth of assets. Gifting is a big thing. So if you're gifted above the amount, you're also not entitled to financial hardship. And an ACSO, an aged care specialist officer, will inform you about gifting. And there's also a FIS, a financial information service officer in Centrelink. They're not a finance, what are they called? The finance planning person. They're free. They just go through your finances. You're allowed to gift $10,000 in a year. So say you gave your child $10,000, that would reduce how much assets you have. However, you're only allowed $10,000 in a year, but up to $30,000 over 5 years. So that's not $10,000 every year trying to reduce your assets. It's a maximum of $30,000 over 5 years, but a maximum of $10,000. So say you've gifted your, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but just say you've changed the title deed of your house to your son, thinking, oh, that's not going to be included. No, Services Australia and Centrelink are going to go, oh, you've just gifted an $800,000 house. That's going to continue to be part of your assessment for 5 years. So that's where the FIS officer, also call that number, comes in handy, and it's a free service. Did you want to jump in?
All right, I think we're on the home stretch here, so we're going to get a couple more slides to go. So basically, we help out everyone, whether you're, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, South Sea Islanders, LGBTI, people from rural or remote locations, because we cover the whole state, and people who are born overseas. Next one. All right, so this is where we are. Here we'd come from the South Brisbane office, which is, just up, we're up near the PA hospital, but it just shows that we cover the whole state, and I think that's pretty much it. Oh, you can call in yourself. No referrals necessary. Just anybody can contact us for information referral, but like I said right at the beginning, we'd want to talk to the person who's actually got the issue around what services they've got, and that's where we'd go from there, and that's our phone number. So that's pretty much it. Now that I've held you up. Questions?
So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Maha. So I think so we'll spend the rest of the time with questions, but just to sort of reinforce, I think what was said and what the purpose of today is that for those of you that are just wondering what you do if you haven't accessed My Aged Care at all, call that number for My Aged Care. And then hopefully the way the system is supposed to be designed, you'll never need to contact ADA, you'll never need to contact me, you'll just get the services that you need. The important thing about today is knowing that if you don't, that's what OPAN exists for, and really that's what my role is as well. So if you're just wondering what to do about accessing My Aged Care, call the My Aged Care number. They'll assess you, and if you get the services you need, that's supposed to be how the system works. I think a lot of people here have a lot more knowledge and are already well and truly involved. People that are concerned about some of the changes. That's really what I want to sort of focus on today. But if anyone's got very basic questions as well, please feel free. We have another microphone. The importance of the other microphone is so that people online can also hear. So if you can wait until Ali brings the microphone around, we'll try and make sure that we cover everyone. Like I said, 11:30 at least, another 15 minutes, and I think everyone can go until 12 o'clock quite comfortably. Also, there's tea and coffee there. And if you want to raise your hand for some coffee, we can probably sort that out as well.
Hello, Rowan. Thank you for holding the meeting today. Our biggest problem is an in-home assessment for my husband, which seems to be impossible to get. And the other thing is providers, where we've got all the codes for what we need, and they say, we'll send out your name. We never get responses. And so I get on the phone, they say, no, sorry, we can't help. It's dire.
So and for those of you that are wondering, who aren't involved in the system at all and are wondering, this is a good example and an opportunity to explain in depth a bit more of how the system works. So it sounds like you've been involved with the and I'm sorry, I really very sorry about the runaround. Like it's the last thing you need. So you've been approved for what's called the Commonwealth Home Support Program. People call it the CHISP. That is, as has been said before, it's the old system. It's the way it used to work. Basically, the government would call block fund organisations like Centrecare, the Catholic Church sort of social services arm. They would just give them millions and millions of dollars, and then you'd be approved, given these codes, and then you would go and call up Centrecare and say, I've got codes for gardening. Can you send a gardener around? They go, they'll be around next week. Sometime around the mid-2013 or so, the system changed to go from that block community funded system to an individualised funded system, which is what home care packages were. So instead of the money going as a block to Centrecare, the money attaches to the individual. So the old system is still, the old system, CHISP, is still there. It's the basic level of services. The government, I don't think, has decided at the moment when or whether that will phase out. So it is still being used as that bottom level of services. But the financial challenge has meant that as we fund individualised programs for more personalised care, it has been a challenge for government to fund both, and so it is a difficult situation. The key though is that problem about getting another assessment, because really once you start needing those extra level of services, then it is vital to have that assessment in a timely manner. And so I'm sorry to hear that it's still taking a long time. Some of the changes that have been made as part of this whole system are designed to shorten that. And if I was really on top of the government's brief, those waiting times are coming down. Bottom line is though, if you're waiting too long and if you don't think it's fair, contact OPAN or contact me.
Sorry. But in saying that, we can't guarantee that we can change things, okay? So individually, but we will try our best.
Hang on. It's gone on mute.
Is that better? I don't have a question as such, more just a statement that I am a local financial planner and I specialise in aged care advice. One thing I would be saying to everybody is plan things out before it gets too late, and please, I urge you to seek for proper financial advice before you make any commitments. Where we have these situations where people have a fee or going into aged care and having to pay substantial amounts of money, where I come into play is how are you going to pay for those fees? It can make a big difference from a Centrelink point of view versus going, paying for selling a house, selling a share portfolio. I've been through it as myself with my own mother. who I thought was going to be fine. She had a fall, went into hospital and developed delirium, and all of a sudden she couldn't make any decisions on her own. As a financial planner, it's rarely the person going into care that I'm talking to, it's their dependents, their powers of attorneys, their spouses. So have these conversations beforehand. It can be really daunting and really overwhelming, but in the heat of the moment, those decisions can make a big impact on your finances and your age pension. So it's more just to say these type of communities are fantastic. Talk to people. Once you know what your fees are, take that next step and get some proper advice to make sure you're making the right decision to pay for things. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
First of all, excuse me for going bright red speaking in front of so many people, but just similar to the lady that was speaking before, my situation was my dad came from New South Wales to come live with us in Queensland in July last year. We started the aged care process and we waited until November last year and we got codes. We have all these codes, but now we have been told we need to wait for actual funding for our area. And we're still waiting. I mean, just things like, you know, having handles in the shower was something that we needed. We're still waiting on that. Of course, I've had to go and do that myself. So there's a lot of pressure on people who are taking care of people who have become elderly and disabled. So it's a little bit unfair, but I don't know when the funding's coming. Nobody can tell me when I will get funding for my dad. How does that work? And what do I do?
So again, you're in exactly the same situation. Where is that CHISP? So whenever, you know, getting codes means that you are in the CHISP funded system. Like I said, it's not just a relic because it's working today, but it in a way it is a relic of the old way it was done. When will funding be coming through? It is a really tough question, and you know you're exactly right to raise it. This is not just about pruning hedges. This is about, you know, essential, very basic and really quite cheap home modifications. The point is that, you know, when you are really like frustrated, then come to me or come to OPAN, and if I can give no message. You know, that's the number one message that I really want to give today, that there is help out there. Not that we can necessarily save it, but we can make sure that no stone's left unturned. Oh, sorry, hang on, we've got the... And then, yep. Is the microphone on, just by the way?
Oh, I spoke to you about my aged care package last week and you called me, for which I thank you. I think I've sorted a couple of things out now, but I want to know, there's a lot of providers in Queensland. Why don't they all charge the same co-payment? Because every provider charges something else. It should be universal. Can anybody reply to that?
Maha, I think you sort of answered that earlier.
With that, so well, the government is, they're discussing that they're going to be putting a price cap for like NDIS. So all the domestic and independent services will all be capped at the same amount. Unfortunately, right now, service providers, legislation says it has to be fair and transparent. So what they're doing is whatever outgoings it costs them to send someone becomes that hourly rate, and each service provider calculates that differently. So it should have come maybe mid-year, but we're April. So there's always, you know, we've seen that things are being extended. So that's why I'm not going to put dates and disappoint anyone. But the aim is that all service providers have a cap. In saying that, we're probably not looking at that $90 an hour anymore. That could range between 100 to 150 depending, because outgoings and the cost of sending care employees is quite expensive. But co-contribution, that is calculated by Services Australia. So that co-contribution, like the 17.5% for pensioners, that's the same for all pensioners for whichever service provider you go to. It's the hourly rate. That's what makes it different. Oh, and I'll also note that there's also a 10% to a 20% processing fee. So you're paying $100, but then they can charge another 20% processing fee if they've outsourced the work.
No, you don't.
I think we can clarify it a bit.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with it because that co-payment, different providers charge more than some other providers charge, and it should be uniform, it should be capped. That co-payment should be capped. It shouldn't be, you know.
When you say co-payment, is that the hourly rate?
No, the co-payment, the payment that I have to pay.
Yep.
Okay, the payment that I have to pay for services, because some providers charge X amount of dollars and other providers charge higher.
So I think I can answer that. Yeah, so that's right. It's going to be capped, and we're just not sure on the date whether it's this financial year. I didn't think it was this financial year actually. I thought there was still a review.
Next year.
Yeah, so next year. So yeah, the answer is yes, it's going to be capped. Yep.
Is that what it is?
I'll just start ripping, you'll think of something.
I wonder, my mother was in Veteran Affairs. Now, I'm listening to these people saying that they're not getting services. And I saw what my mother got with Veteran Affairs. I mean, she opened her mouth and it came running even if she didn't need it. I mean, her cupboard was full of all these little bits and pieces that she never used. And I used to get quite angry because when they'd come around and say, do you want this? She'd say yes. And I'd say to her, you're denying somebody else, Mum, by saying yes when you're never going to use it. And then I hear, and this is what I think why things should be across the board. I've also heard that Indigenous people get extra money to buy electrical equipment per year, so much allocated per year. Well, age pensioners don't get that either. So, you know, why are some systems being given all this extra money? So, you know, why is the system more even is what I'm saying.
Maybe I could answer that. The first thing is that, you know, that this really is about trying to improve it and lift it up for everybody. You know, I've always been focused on you know, everyone should get a fair share. And you know, the thing is, older people in our community have been through so much, and it was, you know, now that you got to this point in your life, you shouldn't have to be scrapping for things. So that's my attitude, is that everyone should be lifted up. And in terms of, you know, I mean, without getting into too much detail, you know, part of the new system in some ways, not the example of your mother necessarily having stuff that she didn't use. Part of the old system was that people would have big packages and not spend them, and they'd effectively sit on the government's budget but unutilised. And so there are some tough decisions which have affected Heather, for example, where that money is no longer available when you might need something like respite or something like that. These are some of the problems we need to work through. But fundamentally, these reforms have opened up a big heap of money that was sitting there being unused. So not necessarily things as such, but dollars.
Hi there. I just wondered whether you, Mark, can please just expand a bit on Care Finder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's not actually in my system, so I don't work with that. So yeah. So we have there's a thing called Care Finder, which is part of the PHN, which is the Public Health Network. Anyway, So Care Finder is a much broader service for people who have cognitive issues or something like that, and they need support to work their way through trying to start off and try and get a service. Really, is sort of mainly what it's about. There you go. I might pass it on to you because you probably know a bit more about it than me.
Thanks, Mark. Hello. My name's Marion and I work for the Queensland Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Council. My previous life, Mark will remember me, I was an aged care navigator with him 5 years ago when the government did a national trial, and then I was a care finder, and now I work for the elder care service. Care Finder is a support service at no cost for people to navigate the system if they don't have adequate support through family and friends. You can have a support network that you don't want to help you to support with the aged care system, so Care Finder therefore is available. Now, ADA do provide Care Finder services as well as Footprints, a number of other. Haven't got any phone numbers off the top of my head. But it is a service out there if you need help with navigation of the system, regardless of whether it's from registration right through to placement into aged care or moving services. But there are factors in there for a Care Finder that limit it to people that don't necessarily have the support network they need. And I work for the next step of that, which is the elder care services, which is for the First Nations people, and that has different guidelines, but happy to provide my number to Rowan and we can talk about that further.
Can I just quickly mention, if you call through the open number, you'll come through to us. If we're unable to assist with your issue, our intake team are so resourceful, they'll refer you on and give you a number. So they won't just let you go without providing you further information and contacts.
Sorry. Oh, so Julie.
Yeah.
I'm with her.
Eleanor, of course, very.
I just want to know if this system is nationally implied and is each state different, because I've heard from people who get astronomical amounts of money every second month for taxis. And I spoke to someone here and they say, no, they don't. And the person's living in her own house. She's just lost her husband. She refuses to move. She refuses to have anybody live in her house. How can we help her? She can't walk. She's in a wheelchair.
All right, going back to it, I think it might be feedback over there. So going back to that, each care plan's individual. So if the person has worked out with that service provider that they need a lot of taxi vouchers, they may have set that up with them. But so they could be right next door to each other, and it's not state-based, so it'd be individual. So they may have a lot of medical reasons to use them. Well, then it's being wasted, but they need to go back to their service provider and sort of say, this isn't being used, I'd rather use the money for X or Y. So it's a care plan. The care plan is set up between the service provider and the person who's receiving those services. So it has to be, basically they're saying you've got this amount of money to spend, whatever it is that they've come through the level. How can we use that best for you? So that's what it all comes down to. It's sort of, so it could be whatever.
And that's why what we were saying that with the support at home now, that if you don't use it after a quarter, you're only allowed 1,000 or 10% of your whatever's left, and the rest gets taken back to Services Australia, to the department, to distribute to people who do need it. You've got people on the old home care package that have over $100,000 of unspent funds sitting there that they're not using, but you can't actually go distribute it to anyone else. So one good thing of support at home, that they have identified this, and they do want to make it fair, where if you don't use it, we're going to give it to someone else after the quarter. Yeah, my aged care. But everyone is different in the way that they get their budgets and their care plan. So not one care plan is the same as someone else or their needs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name's Eleanor and my question's more financial because it's trying to address an area with the new home care packages from level 1 to 8 for people who are on the old home care package 1 to 4. So I've got a client who's on level 3 at the moment, looking for extra support, so going to the new level 4 stage. Now, she's been on the old care package over 5 years. She is getting conflicting information from her service provider as to whether she is grandfathered to the level 4 and will know still as a full pensioner not have a contribution amount. Some service providers have told her, yes, she will have the contribution of 5%.
Can I actually, before you answer that, nothing sort of saps me when a meeting sort of just drifts to an end. So I think, I'm happy to sort of officially close the meeting now, just so that people feel that we've sort of, I think, reached this end point. If there's anybody that has to go and wants to ask a question, please stick your hand up. But otherwise, we're happy to just have now an informal discussion. We'll still be running online, until about 12 o'clock. But I just before everyone goes, I would like to thank you all for coming today and really just reinforce that it wouldn't have happened without Heather, but there are a lot of Heathers out there, and people that we need to help. That help is available. So thanks a lot for coming along today. There's information on the desk. There's our numbers are there. So thanks a lot for coming. If you like, hang around for another 20 minutes or so, and we'll answer some more questions. Thanks. Thank you.